I'd like to take some time to just share a story with you from the Bible that's been really helpful and impactful for me as I'm dealing with the fear and the emotions of what's going on around us. Just to kind of give some background into the story, it's in 1 Kings chapter 18 and 19. It's the story in a time and a place in Israel where there's a prophet of God, Elijah, and he's living under a time in Israel where there's a king Ahab and a queen Jezebel, and they are going after and threatening the prophets of God and the people of God. And this all accumulates into a showdown on Mount Carmel between Elijah and the prophets of Baal, witnessed by King Ahab and the people. And Elijah, during this time, he calls up and prays to God and casts down fire from heaven to show the power and the strength of the one true living God of Israel, which accumulates in the destruction of the prophets of Baal and the people turning away from a false religion. After this happens, Elijah goes back up on Mount Carmel and prays and ends a 3-year drought in Israel. As the rain clouds are coming in, Elijah gets himself together and as an old man outruns the horses and the chariots of King Ahab. And as King Ahab returns to the city, he tells his wife Jezebel what's going on, and she's furious. And she makes a very real and a very credible threat against Elijah's life. She says that within 24 hours, if she does not do to Elijah as he did to the prophets of Baal, that may the gods deal with her ever so severely. She's all in. And Elijah hears this and he's afraid. And he flees from this threat. And as he flees into the wilderness, he leaves his servant, his community, his support system behind, and he flees into the wilderness alone. And then as he gets into the wilderness, he experiences the depths of depression and despair and asks God to end his own life. And when I look at this story, there are 3 pieces of wisdom that really stick with me. 1, Elijah knew God. Elijah walked with God, and he was still not immune to fear and depression. No one, not one of us is immune to feeling fear and depression. The second thing that really stands out to me is every time we experience a real incredible threat, which, let's say it, coronavirus right now is a very real incredible threat in our society, that we have 2 options. We either respond in fear like Elijah did and we flee, or we respond to fear and we stand our ground and see the salvation of the Lord on our behalf. The third thing that really stands out to me is how do we stand our ground in this time and this place? And the truth is, we need each other. When we listen to that story and we see Elijah flee into the wilderness, he isolates himself and he ends up in the pits of despair and depression. At this time, as coronavirus is here, we need to respect the physical separation of each other to slow down and stop the spread of this virus. But we also need to understand we cannot do this alone. When we isolate emotionally, we end up in the pits of despair. We need each other. So thankfully, we live in a time and a place with unprecedented ability to connect with each other without physically touching each other. So take that time to make that phone call, take that video chat, to reach out to your community and provide an authentic space to talk about how you're doing and your emotions right now, to share in a safe space authentic, true emotions. We need each other. Together, we are stronger than this virus. We are stronger than this threat. Because the truth is, each and every one of us are going to experience times and days when we want to respond in fear, not to fear. But together we can face this threat. And if you're out there and you feel alone or like you don't have a support system to turn to, join us at 21st Century Church as we take our activities online and we begin to connect with each other in a healthy, separate physical, but emotionally connective and authentic way.